Hey guys, you found it. Welcome to the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast. I am your host, Brandon Richards. I'm a real estate investor and avid entrepreneur based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. My wife and I run a real estate investment company, the OPF Group, and the brokerage, OPF Realty. We focus on land acquisitions across several states, flip and build homes, acquire and wholesale apartments, and we are now the proud owners of the real estate investor software, Deal Manager Pro. Deal Manager Pro is a real estate investor CRM that we are building based off of our 10 years of experience in the game. Listen in as I interview the nation's leading entrepreneurs and discuss the monumental battles of business and life.
I went to my dad and I was like, hey, look, I've never asked for college. I didn't want to go to college.
Yeah.
And I asked for him to pay for the mentorship fee back then. Of course, he said no.
Mhm.
My dad was like, no, I'm not paying that much money. I think it was like $6,000 or $7,000.
Yeah.
And I waited a month. I went back to my dad and I said, look, I know this is what I want to do. I know this sounds crazy. And I had, dude, I don't even know if I had a credit card back then.
Mm.
I couldn't even put it on a credit card. I don't think I had a credit card then. And he agreed to pay for it. And that was really what started me off. But man, it took me, when you're young, I was like 20. I
Really?
think I was about 20. Yeah, I'm about to turn 40. So I've been doing this for a long time now. And I was about 20 years old. And man, I was stubborn. I didn't want to listen. I
Yeah.
thought I knew it all. And I think we all go through a growth. And if you're a little bit more wiser and older, you're not like that. I was. And it took me years to get out of my own way.
Mm-hmm.
And, real success never came from me until, dude, I was in the business for north of 5 years or something like that. Five, maybe seven, 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I struggled massively. And it took a long time for me to get traction. And like everybody comes in, most guys come in doing wholesale and flipping houses.
Yeah.
I did the same thing for a long time. And then, I got away from it. And uh, I use that as like today, if we do any flips, we'll do a few a year just to help offset some of our travel costs. We don't need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't do it, I'm not like dying for money and I really don't care. But we do it to help offset because I spent a shitload of money going to Europe this year.
Yeah. You don't do cheap trips, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean it was super fucking expensive
Yeah.
versus like I look back at the RV stuff, I'm like, man, that was cheap
Yeah.
compared
Yeah.
to this year, it was super expensive. So we just looked at ways like how can we offset some of it if we want to offset it, and then other than that, like I look at a pie and I look at time, and now like I don't have my foot on the gas in my business like for building our portfolio
Yeah.
like a lot of guys do. I don't try to actually while I'm traveling. Like I call this part of my year, my off season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really moving around a lot. I'm in Florida, uh, for most of the winter. I'll work to pick some deals up over the winter and some larger stuff. And that'll be our purchase for the year.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to run around and do massive volume. I don't need to do it. Uh, I think that's what's a little different because our portfolio does very well and it cash flows very well. So I don't really need to go around and try and do massive volume.
Yeah.
Like I'm just grateful to be in that position.
Right. Yeah. So as we're going, I'm trying to write some questions down. I'm trying not to skip ahead, but in the beginning, you went straight into wholesaling, flipping. Obviously,
Hmm.
you ran into the same rat race basically that we all get into when we're flipping. It's like, oh, great money, no money, great money, no money.
Yep, it's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And so
Exactly what it was.
5, 6, 7 years of that, you're like, shit, something's got to give. So what was the epiphany? Like, what happened to make you decide to be like, dude, I'm making good money, but I'm in a nightmare lifestyle. What broke that, and
Uh,
what'd you move into?
Two things happened. I got hit for my first time, and this is I'm trying to figure out how many years ago it was now. 7, 8 years, maybe 9, something like that. So somewhere in the last like 7 to 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
I got hit with my first six-figure tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
And that first one, man, I looked at that. My accountant called me. I was at a closing, and he called me and he goes, "Are you sitting down?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm sitting down." He goes, gave me the tax bill number. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
She was, I'm like, there's no way that's my tax bill. Uh, that is massive.
Yeah.
And my wife's face goes blood red. Again, I'm at a closing table and I just like grabbed her leg. I said, it's all right. We'll figure it out. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it. And so that moment when I got hit with that tax bill, I was like, all right, man, we are paying a boatload of money in taxes, number one. We got to figure something else out. And then a friend of mine asked me a question that really, at the time, I don't know why I didn't see it, but he asked me, he goes, where's your wealth at? And I'm like, I had to really think about it. I'm like, dude, well, most of my wealth's in real estate. Like,
Hmm.
and I hadn't even held that much at that point.
Right.
So I started looking at it, I'm like, what would happen if I took my time instead of focusing on finding flips? What if I took 80% of my time plus and shaved off 20%, 10, 20% max for like if I was going to do any flips? And if I kept that 80 plus percent time, what would happen to my portfolio, my cash flow?
Hmm.
And I started looking at it, and I just realized we could create more. I don't call what we do residual, or I'm sorry, passive. It's not freaking passive.
Yeah.
It's residual.
Yeah.
There's always a baseline of how much work you have to do. But to create the residual side of it, what would it take? And we started looking. I'm like, all right, cool. It might not look great year one,
Hmm.
but if we can get this out by like 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, what's this going to look like? And that's what really got me excited. So I went to my wife and I was like, we got to stop flipping houses. And she looked at me like I was nuts.
Hmm.
She thought, no way were we going to start flipping houses or stop flipping houses. And we literally cleared up, man. We started traveling more. We cleared up most of our flips, and then we moved most of our time into portfolio assets. At the time, I still maintained a wholesaling side of my company with a partner that I
Hmm.
had at that time with that side of my company. I don't have it anymore. We shut down our wholesaling side. Um, yeah, I don't care who you talk to, unless you're set up with like 10, 15 employees, dude. It's a
Yeah.
grind.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Like I've realized, and like I think there's a point in everyone's business, you're extremely purposeful.
Hmm.
And when you're purposeful, you start making different decisions. My wife and we realized we really wanted to live our best life in our best years and go to the places we wanted to go to while I had my health and she had her health. And we could go, like, I'm an avid trail runner. I love running. And I started realizing that there was a lot of things later in life I couldn't do. And since we started doing this, and I'm excited for you because you're going on the same journey. But the number one thing we have heard since we went full-time RVing and we left, it's the same thing and it's the most repetitive. We have heard countless times, good for you for figuring out how to do it while you have your health.
Hmm.
And it's amazing, dude. I've heard this like dozens of times. I'm not kidding you. And it's weird. You go in these national parks, and people's idea of going into a national park and seeing things is, oh, I'm going to go out and drive through this park.
Hmm.
I'm not getting out. I don't have the mobility. I don't have the ability to hike a mile or 2 miles into this park. So their idea is driving through it. They're
Yeah.
not experiencing it, right? They're
Hmm.
just saying, oh, I saw it from the road, right?
Right.
So, and it's sickening how many times you go into these parks and you'll see people struggling getting up a flight of stairs.
Oh, I bet
And
it's more than 80 to 90% of the people that vacation.
yep. And so all throughout Europe, this whole trip, and I saw this. I don't even know how many times. I'm not gonna try and guess them, like hundreds.
Mhm.
And it's just it's an amazing thing to be able to do what we've done now. But again, it came. The only reason we got here was because we both wanted to travel and
Yeah.
we both wanted to have that capability to pretty much really just do whatever we wanted to do. And it it doesn't come without sacrifice.
Hmm.
There was sacrifices in it, and I started understanding I didn't want the grind that everybody else wants and that craves. I don't have ego in my business. I have none.
I don't know.
And
That's
um I don't care about the volume, dude. I
mhm.
don't care. Like I've been around so many guys that are doing 100 to 200 deals a year and they're miserable.
Mhm.
One, they're not making that much money or doing as well as you would think they're doing.
Right.
And I mean, again, this is for me letting go. My business is completely transformed. It's changed, and I just wish I could have figured this out earlier.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do.
Same here. Well, there's that meme that goes around. I think it's in Paris. I've never been to Paris, but I think it is. There's a one of those canoe or kayak guides that skirt you along on the river, and there's
Yeah.
the old couple sleeping there while they're getting pushed along the river wherever it is. And it would the I forget the exact terminology on the meme, but it's like, don't wait until you're so old that you can't enjoy your vacation. It's like,
Yep.
why wait? I mean, I'm 38 now. I'm like, shoot, I wish I would have figured this out like 10 years earlier, because within 15 years, it's gonna be pretty difficult to be doing a lot of things we do. We vacation a lot like you. I see you're doing tons of hiking out there. When we went to Alaska a few weeks ago, dude, we almost did 80 miles hiking trails.
That's awesome.
We don't sit still. It just seems weird to go to these beautiful places and see it from the street, like you're saying, just drive through. Like that's not you're not really enjoying it the way that it should be. I mean, it's just
It's just weird, man. Is like I, there were so many times that I look back at my business and I found a 2019 goal board. And I found it today because I had to go through, man, my cell phone from all the pictures we took this year.
mm,
I'm out of room. And it's 200 and like, I don't know, 60 gigs or something on my cell
mm,
phone. And I'm out. And my wife was like backing it up on I forget which website, but she was backing up earlier today. And I just sat there and I'm looking at like my 2019 goals,
mm,
and I had so much ego in my company. It was all door driven. I
mm,
wanted to like even look back. I'm like, all it does is like it's like, oh, I can brag that I got 100 plus doors. I can brag that I'm doing so many deals a year,
mm,
and I just wish I would have had the mindset that I do now. And it's really funny is like, I have met so many people um, from this business. And like a couple days ago, we were actually at Epcot with a guy, and I he's local to our market, and I
mm,
only met him once last year. And dude's got hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, not syndicated, all in the family, and a
mm.
30% LTV.
Wow.
And it's just these guys aren't in the rooms. Like they
Right.
don't need to be in the rooms. And I just found it funny because the guy's like the information that we got from him. Guy travels a lot now,
Mm,
and it's just like it's funny about like how travel has you know put us in front of people.
yeah.
Otherwise, we never would have been in front of or had
Right.
met. And the information that we've gotten from it and the value has been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. When you made that jump, did you go into, because I know you're doing apartments now, and I don't have a complete grasp on exactly what your business looks like, and I certainly want to get into it. But when you made the jump into spending 80% of your time more into getting the residual income, did you go straight into single family, or did you go into another asset class right away?
No, I went. So what I did is I built a base. That's what I call it, right? I built a base out of single family
Mhm.
and small multifamily.
Yeah.
And today, like, I'm not really buying much residential for rentals. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not buying it anymore. Uh, we'll do small multifamily and like medium multifamily. That's mainly our target right now. And when we started building our portfolio, like, I mainly went the opposite. And it's really weird, man. How I built my portfolio is really funny. And I think I went through what a lot of guys go through. I built a portfolio and I realized we sucked at asset management. I sucked. And
Mhm.
man, I was bad. Our systems were horrible. So my wife and I used to self-manage our stuff, and I didn't have many doors then, I don't remember what it was. It was like a handful or like six, seven doors. And I ran into a little bit of a liquidity problem.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know what's going on. Because again, we sucked at asset management. Um, so we started selling everything off.
Mhm.
I sold it all off, or so I thought.
Mhm.
And this is a dumb thing to have happen, and I admit this. This is like ridiculous that I did this, but I sold it all off. But I forgot I owned a property.
Okay.
And I get a call from my lender. This is on a hard money loan that I had
Yeah.
bought, and I don't know how because I just can't believe I did this. Again, we're paying the mortgage. Everything got paid every month,
Yeah.
but I forgot I owned the damn thing. So I get a call from this hard money lender. He goes, "Hey, what are you doing with this?" And I'm like, thinking I had sold it. And again, this is so dumb. I can't believe I did this. But he goes, "Are you going to refinance and keep this thing?" So I scrambled to refinance it because I'm like, we had a lot of equity in this little
Mhm.
townhouse, man. And I sat there and it hit me a little while later. I'm like, how did I forget that I owned this thing? And it's because I had a property manager. So I
Oh, on that
realized
one.
that some of the systems were that I had, even though they were horrible,
Uh-huh.
kind of worked a little bit, just like a little it
Right.
worked.
Yeah.
So it was from that we eventually wanted to get back into, again, because of what I talked about earlier, wanting to build a portfolio.
Mhm.
And we just went back down that road and we just kept changing systems. And we don't do much these days. Most of everything is our property managers are doing everything. So we built systems to manage managers and put certain things in place that have worked really well for us. But it took a while, man. And once we built systems down and we started understanding numbers better, and we fixed our liquidity change completely. I don't know how long it took from there, maybe 8 months. Our
Mhm.
liquidity situation massively changed, and we could start doing some much heavier deals. Like right now, I can do up to $10 million by myself. Um, I more or less target 1 to 5. That's kind of my sweet spot right now.
Yeah.
But I can go up to 10 without pulling anyone in.
Nice.
Yeah, I've
That's
got,
the goal,
we've
right?
got, yeah, we just, again, we're set up a little bit differently
Yeah.
than a lot of guys. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody, when they come into this business, and you're building a portfolio, everybody's got an idea of what they want it to look like in the end. We started a little differently. Instead of just going massively and trying to target door count, we figured out operations better.
Mhm.
Part of it was again, it was just market timing. I've got a chunk of my doors right now I got 11 doors at 3.5% that cash flow incredibly well. Um, they do really well. Like we'll make around $100,000 this year off of just those 11 doors.
Wow.
Um, we have another 10. We'll make another almost $100,000 off another 10 doors. And then we got a bunch of more stuff. But it doesn't take what most people think it takes to, like, everybody's out there preaching the volume game. It's operations. You live
Right.
and die by it.
Yep.
And if your operations are set, your business does well. If your operations are not well,
Mhm.
you bleed.
Yeah.
And you'll
Yeah.
bleed your money. And then I hate to say it, you end up bleeding other people's money.
Yep.
And when you end up bleeding other people's money, it's a hole you can't dig out of.
Right.
Or it's really freaking hard. You got to start flipping a lot of houses, try and dig out of that one, or sell and liquidate. And dude, that's just one thing right now. I'm grateful for how we're built
Yeah.
right now that I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
Right. When you say small and medium multifamily, what's that number count look at? Is that 15 to 40 units or?
I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of the markets that we are in right now, they top out where we're at right now, right around 200,000 a unit for some of them. But my main target right now is like 80 to the low 100 range.
Yeah.
That's our main target of what we're looking at,
Right.
maybe up to like 150, something like that. But I'm just looking like I'm not buying just solid cash flow plays right now. We're looking for some meat on the bones for like some value add stuff,
Mhm.
have it make sense. I don't mind, again, just because of our structure in our systems right now. We'll do heavy ups. I'm doing them right now. I just came off of a project that was 18 months for a small 4 unit building. It just worked because I own six doors, 2 doors down,
Mhm.
and it's in a market right in Annapolis, Maryland, right near the naval base. And that market trades at a 5 to a 6 cap
Yeah.
for where those are. And I could pull probably just over 200K a door right now on those for where they're at. And the ones we just did, the numbers on it are insane. We ended up completing all construction, purchase everything, 340 grand all in, and I've got an insurance check coming back between 80 and $90,000. So I'm really all in at like
50%.
250, 260
Yeah.
on something that's grossing north of 8,000-ish a month, 8,100 a month right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
those numbers are, and I like, they're just fantastic. But yeah, like it just doesn't. A lot of guys preach the volume.
Hmm.
I'm like, it doesn't take the volume. It
Right.
takes stuff bought right.
Better deals. Yeah.
And if you just happen to catch rent run-ups, dude, we caught amazing rent run-ups in a lot of our stuff. And like one of the value add projects we're doing right now, it's this bigger building. Like, dude, I've got rents in there that are $700-800 a door that should be like 1,400-1,600 a door.
Hmm.
So we're doing full heavy ups. These are full gut units that we're doing, and full rewires, meter stacks, everything's getting redone in there. But it just, I think there's too many rooms that say preach volume, 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 grind, grind, grind.
Right.
It doesn't take what everyone think it takes.
Yeah. 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 I realized I went to a couple masterminds and I got lucky enough to be invited to a couple guys' headquarters. And I remember walking around one guy's building and there was a couple of times where I was like, dude, why? But one of them was, it was the biggest epiphany for me, was he was running somewhere around 40 something employees. And he was like, yeah, it's like day 18 before we break even in the month. I'm like, wait, repeat that? So you got to
Yeah,
work 3 weeks out of the whole month before you start making money. And I was like, dude, there is no way in hell I'm going to build a company like this. This is crazy. And then I
that is
remember him
crazy.
saying he was doing his self-managing as well at the time. And or he started a property management. And he was like, yeah, we need to make it to 100 doors before we start making money with the property management company. And I was like,
That's
dude,
actually, I've heard we got a couple other ones we know, and it was between 100 and 200,
yeah,
depending on the layers and when they're bringing in the maintenance guys.
right,
That changes the numbers drastically. So a lot of those guys are 200 a door, and they need, gosh, a lot of those guys need 500 plus.
yeah,
And that's the problem, is every 100 you need another employee, and every 80 or something like that you need another maintenance guy.
yeah,
Right? So yeah, that's why, again, like, for like, it's funny, man, is like, I'm a firm believer of build around your strengths and
hmm,
backfill the weaknesses. We understood our weaknesses, and then we got educated over time by our portfolio.
yeah,
And there's stuff that's not talked about in a lot of rooms, for a portfolio. And like, I think one of the biggest things, and I'm curious what your takeaway is too on this too, because I know you got units too, but it took us a while to figure this out. Okay, so every guy would say I'm making $400 a door, and they go look at their tax return. They're not making $400 a door.
mhm,
They think they're making $400 a door or $600 a door, and
right,
their tax returns, right, pre-tax, they're not making 400 bucks a door. So it took us a while to figure this out. And every room talks about, because when we were buying single family and even our small stuff, we've been running our stuff as a multifamily purchase.
mhm,
So our numbers that we run are far different. The 1% rule, as an example, is the biggest bullshit rule that's ever been created in
yeah,
some guy's dumb book. It just doesn't freaking work.
right,
I don't care who sells it. You're not, I've owned far too many units. It doesn't work. There's no money left. There's just no cash flow.
right,
So, but it took us a while to figure it out. Is our built like in our buildings is turnover costs. Okay,
yeah,
so every guy's numbers, every program, everything. No one talks about turnover. No one.
mhm,
So they go renovate it, rent it up, and you after all these costs you make blank. That is a bunch of bullshit.
right,
That number is so wrong. It's turnover costs are one of the biggest robbers out of that. I don't care about the other stuff, that you look at, but turnover costs, they can kill your entire year. They can kill, depends on the size of the building, if it's a single family unit or what. But yeah, man, like it took us a long time to figure out why some of our numbers were off. And once we understood it, we're like, okay. So we use, for like our rental tracking stuff, our managers use programs, and then my
mhm,
wife created custom spreadsheets that autofill it in. And
okay,
then we have things that we want to track that's not in a lot of, like, honestly, it's not in any of the program,
mhm,
that we want. Like, we want to see year over year cost increases, which you can't see in a lot of those. We want to see if our turnover costs went up. We want to see if our taxes went up, our insurance, because the problem is usually most people lean into an assistant to go say, all right, why is my insurance up, say $400 more, or, and a lot of
Or
these, dude, these are
more.
thousands
Yeah.
that are more, right? And we want to be able to see it so we can start getting in front of some of the other stuff,
Right.
which it's allowed us to change and layer in different system. I'm a no headache guy. So we have no employees. We have none. And it's my wife and I. And so we try to simplify everything for our tracking. That's worked really well for us.
Hmm.
And then we just layer in property managers and contractors if we're involved,
Hmm.
um, which is not much anymore. I mean, but we're involved a little bit, and usually like um, the value add side, I'm involved a little bit and more on that side. But I'm not involved in day-to-day stuff
Yeah.
anymore.
Did you, did it, is it more simple now because you are in a very limited amount of markets, or my assumption is that it's easy to manage because you chose one, two, three, four, five markets, and those are the
Yep.
only markets, or are you
Yeah.
a little scattered?
Yeah. So we're right now, I'm mainly in Maryland. We're really okay. So all of my existing stuff is in Maryland. We have some other markets right now that we're looking in, like
Hmm.
around Florida and some other areas that we're tossing around right now. But everything right now is in Maryland. So it allows us to, everything is more simple
Hmm.
in like our existing states. And it just, it's easy. Like I was actually on a call before actually we hopped on, and I was talking to a guy, and I'm like, man, let me tell you what, I know guys that have units that are running around filling them up.
Hmm.
Like these are like guys with 80 plus doors, dude. And they're running around doing tenant screenings, renting out their units. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, if you want to look at time and you want to be home with your family and you want to travel or you want to go to your kids' stuff, whatever that might be, you can't do that.
Right.
It just doesn't work. So for me, it's like I look at how do I simplify my life, and we try to build around our existing stuff because the systems are there.
Right.
And then we push outside of it a little, but I'm not about to open up a major can of worms and try and recreate that in another market without
Hmm.
knowing it's going to be a time suck.
Right.
And that's what I'm a little careful of right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Maryland. That's strange. I never heard anybody focusing on Maryland. Actually, I'm not even sure I know a single person in Maryland. Because you're
It's
near
just
a
because
military
it's where I used
base.
to live. That's the only
Oh,
reason.
okay.
I built around where I lived. I didn't build it because I thought it was like this great market.
Yeah. Yeah. You just knew
It's
it.
just where we live. So it
Yeah.
was my backyard. Uh, some of my contractors became friends. Like my
Hmm.
electrician's a really good friend of mine, and we just started building everything there, and that's
Hmm.
why it's there. Now, if I could I pick it up right now and take it into another market? Absolutely. But I don't have like I've got a book of business that we use for any of like the heavy up stuff.
Right.
It would be very hard for me and ignorant of me to think that I could just say pop into Indiana where I have no systems
Right.
and I don't have the book of business and think I could just go in there with the same time investment and do another one.
Hmm.
I know I can't do it.
Right.
Right. I could
Without.
do it, but it's a time suck. It's
Yeah.
going, and that's like yesterday, man. We were in Disney yesterday. My wife and I were in Hollywood Studios, went in for a few drinks, grabbed lunch, got on a bunch of rides, and then came back here. And then later today, we're going to go, because I'm in Margaritaville, we're going to go get in the pool
Hmm.
later and just hang out by the pool.
Yeah.
And this is like a big, beautiful beach pool here. I I'm very limited in like I don't want to pull myself away from a whole lot in that mindset. I just don't want to.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like to your point, I mean, if you were moving to Indiana, you're probably going to go through three contractors, four contractors that screw you, take too much money, take too much time, whatever it is
Yep.
before you find the one. And by then, is it a 10,000 or is it $100,000 loss? And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just,
definitely a loss. You and I both know I'd lose money.
yeah, it'd be a
Like
giant
on
pain.
paper, everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to make so much money," and then
Yeah.
you look at it and you're like, at the end of your deal, or when you go to refinance it or whatever, it just nothing ever works out, man, that way. But
Right.
I do want to share this because I think there's some things that that transform my business
Okay.
that and I realize, dude, you're an investor fuel, aren't you?
No longer investor fuel.
Oh man, so I thought maybe I'd run into you at Oktoberfest because when I got the invite from Mike,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I wonder who I'm going to run in out here.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Which
was
was
in it, and I was gonna go. I was in the cash flow group with Kahuna and Corey
yeah,
Peterson, but when they separated ways, I was in the middle of transitioning primarily into land, and pretty much all three tiers on the investor fuel side are in single family. A lot of the systems and operations kind of line up, but they're all going after single family while I was targeting land. So I split
yeah,
ways. I may go back, but for now. Yeah, but I was super excited about Oktoberfest, and but we didn't.
yeah. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I don't even know where I was going to go with that right now. I'm sorry. Like I was just thinking about that like a little while ago because Mike was messaging me yesterday.
Yeah. No, you said you wanted to share something that then you said
Oh,
investor
yeah, thank
fuel.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of guys. Let's talk about financing.
Hmm.
And there's some I'm going to give two structures. Okay, one, if you're building a flipping company, uh, that this is transformational, and then because this is like my biggest takeaway when I had this company, and it opened up so many doors for me. And then I'll share the portfolio side,
Hmm.
just in case somebody's still flipping houses and they're probably going through some of the struggles that I did. And again, like I don't hear this talked about a lot. Uh, Even though I'm not in a lot of the rooms, a lot of the guys call me for like just to run business shit by me. But when my flipping company transformed, it's when I got away from hard money.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And the guys that are, and I went to private money. I got away from like using the guys that are normal hard money lenders, right? Because the problem is, I got in a liquidity crisis. Nearly, it was really close, man. Like I mean, this was pushing down to the end of my like damn near zero about my bank account. And we had, I don't remember how many projects going on at the time. I remember it was north of five. I'm not even going to try and quote how many it was. The holding costs were eating me alive. And this is back before the market was doing what it's doing now, right?
Hmm.
And contracts would fall through, right, with
Yeah.
buyers. So I had a bunch of flips on the market, paying all these holding costs, and I had some deals that were over budget. And some of these I fronted full rehab, which was like 50, 60 grand. And I paid that full out of pocket without even funding it. And dude, it got really close. So at the end of this, I closed everything out. We luckily sold everything out and it ended up hitting me. And my wife and I sat there. I was like, I got to figure something out
Hmm.
because this normal method doesn't work.
Yeah.
It works, but it can backfire really fast.
Oh yeah.
And and I was like, there's got to be a way to have much higher growth potential. So we sat there and I'm like, you know, I had done some deals and we started looking for some private money and wasn't marketing for it, by the way. And we did a deal with a guy and he called me and was like, hey, you looking for some private money? I said, yeah, sure.
Hmm.
We're looking for some private money. And we ended up, instead of using hard money, we set up a relationship with a private money guy. Okay. So, but the structure of this is different than you'll hear anybody else talk about. And this worked. And this made everything easier, by the way.
Hmm.
So what we did was my private money guy, we're 10%, depending on right now, 10, 11% interest flat, no points, nothing.
Yep.
And instead of paying, that's 100% funded, closing costs, rehab, everything. I'm not cutting any checks, nothing.
Right.
Okay, so if I needed $250,000 with rehab and all everything,
Hmm.
I'm getting wired $250,000 to settlement, right? And we're
Right.
signing loan docs on this.
Yep.
But what I did that made this so different was, and if not everybody can get that set up, but this they might be able to get. We looked in getting off of normal holding costs and going to accrued interest. So
Yeah.
instead of cutting the check every month, we would have our interest payments wrapped in
Yep.
so that if it took me, say, 90 days in and out, they would just take, and if that payment was, say, 2,000 a month, they would just add $6,000 on to the settlement and my payoff would go up 6 grand
Right.
and it takes the holding cost out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it was the smartest thing, dude. All of a sudden our growth potential skyrockets because it's no longer about needing a gap lender or using my own money. Uh, and I was using a lot of my own money
Yeah.
and we just got away from it.
Yeah.
And we use that for residential, building a residential portfolio. And dude, I was buying stuff a lot with that.
Yeah.
And we did really well doing that. So that part worked incredibly well. If somebody's building a portfolio, though, that works for very good on flips. If you're building a portfolio, and this is worth a lot of money. If you're building a portfolio, this is worth hundreds of thousands to maybe like just over $1 million, depending on the next decade on what you're buying.
Mhm.
We stopped using hard money again for the hard money for purchase to refinance for anything that a lot of guys were doing. And we started going and we built relationships with local banks.
Mhm.
And what we have now is we are funded by credit union. And I've got other banks too that I have that are offering this. So I'm just going to give you what I have now. And I'll explain how this transformed everything. So as an example, this deal I'm doing right now on this 12 unit, when we bought it, the bank was willing to cover 800 and my full purchase plus the closing costs, right?
Yeah.
Which is again, because it was a value add deal. Our appraisal on this thing off the top of my head was like 1.6-ish, 1.7, something like that. I'm sorry, I didn't want to
As is
like
or post
1.6,
completion.
1.7, and we had a construction on it of 200 change. Okay.
Mhm.
And so we closed it. I did do a 1031 that I didn't need to do. But what we did is the rehab funds, okay, that sits, we're not paying any interest on it. It
Right.
sits as almost like if it were a line of
Yep.
credit, but it's not a line. So it sits there and I pay no interest until I draw it.
Mhm.
Right. So this was number one. This is why I like working with credit unions, right? So you get away from hard money. If you think about it, you borrow money, they're going to charge you interest from it on day one. Well, when you're
Full
dealing with
amount. Right.
rehabs, that's hundreds of thousands into the $1 million range, dude. That's a lot of money you're burning,
Yeah.
right? So this was the first reason why I love working with credit unions or like local commercial banks. So that was the first benefit. The second benefit was they came to me and said, listen, they knew I wanted a long-term relationship. And in a normal hard money scenario where you're going in and you're buying a deal and you're burring it, you got to refinance that.
Mhm.
If you look at the costs on paper from the per diems, the points, the interest, all this crap to get that refi done, you're usually today 20, depending on the market you're in, you're around 20 grand range. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Depending on a couple things, someone could be like 14, 15, but you're in that range up. And if somebody says, I'm buying, say, 20 deals a year, at a minimum, again, I'm talking about doing this on bigger deals too. So my costs are much heavier. Mine are like 80 grand to like 100 plus thousand when you're looking at these costs. So I wanted to eliminate this
Mhm.
because I'm a long-term guy. I'm not flipping in and out. And I'll tell you, like, if you want to talk about what like our next level is and why we're building the way we're building right now, I'm happy to describe that. But we wanted to eliminate our refinance costs.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did is I went to my banks and I'm like, I don't want to take this away from you. And banks make money if it stays, they don't make money if it leaves.
Right.
Right? That's very easy to understand. So I told them, I said, listen, I want the ability to modify my interest rates. Okay, so going in, my existing bank was giving me a 5-year adjustment. So it's fixed for 5 years going in, a
Yeah.
5-year adjustment, a 10-year adjustment, and a 15-year call. Most commercial banks aren't even doing that. They're giving you a 5, 7, 10. So your call is in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I didn't want that. I got to go refinance that with some other bank and pay more money, right?
Right.
So what we did is I said, I'm already got a 15-year term. They're not calling my stuff uh, for what's there, right?
Mhm.
So he said we end up striking an agreement to allow us to have rate modifications.
Yeah.
So let's say the market rate right now drops to 6%, and I'm at say 7.
Mhm.
I can get a rate modification and a rate adjustment down to 6% for a small fee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That small fee for me on mine right now and my setup is only $50 per modification. So yeah, so if you think how much it would cost me to
It's
go
not even a fee.
refinance to take advantage of that rate,
Yeah.
dude, it's for me, it's tens and tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars
Yeah.
to get a point. So if the rates drop to 5.5 and I refinance at say 6.25,
Mhm.
now I got to do it again. Now I'm out 6 figures in refinance fees.
Right.
So
And there goes your cash flow for the year.
yep. And if you're a long-term guy and you're going, oh, I'm going to keep this for say a decade, and right now rates are stupid, and they're still high, not stupid high, but they're still
Mhm.
pretty stupid high,
Yeah.
and they're coming back down on the commercial side. you're going to be back down in the fives. Who knows when, year range or something like that, if it's even that anymore. You might be low fives, and everybody's going to want to take advantage of that.
Yep.
So now this way, I can just get rate modifications on my existing my any of my assets
Yeah.
for $50. Now I've gotten other banks, dude. We have another bank that we had because we thought we were hitting the end of what this bank would handle because we were literally hitting their legal lending limit at the time when we
Hmm.
thought we were. And so I started calling around. And this was before I went to Europe for 6.5 months. We called around because I wanted to get lined up. Something crossed my desk. So we actually found a bank, $70 million is what they offered us.
Right out the gate.
70 million bucks, $10 million each per loan,
Hmm.
is what they offered us. And then they said, we'll open up modifications to you.
Yeah.
Same thing, same terms, everything else. But using a bank as if it's a hard money loan and how they funded the 70%,
Yeah.
it's actually doable, but you have to know which banks and which commercial lenders will do it. And
Right.
there's a different terminology that they have for that other, that honestly, most people don't even know it's there,
Hmm.
and I'm just telling you this because I talk to like a lot of the bigger guys and they're like, dude, nobody talking about this
Right. Right.
anyway. And they're like, you're the only person I know doing this. And I got lucky because I stumbled on it
Hmm.
because what happened is a VP of this bank called me and he goes, we had this conversation and he said something to me and I'm like, holy shit. Like you said this in a different way I've never heard anywhere.
Yeah.
So after we were structured there, we did a lot of money with them, or a decent amount of money, however you want to look at it. And then once we started hitting that near cap, we started looking for another bank to go through. And
Right.
you got to funnel, you got to go through every bank. But we found one offered us like, what was it, 8 to 12 million.
Hmm.
Another bank, a little under that, much smaller. And then the other bank was bigger. They gave us up to 70, is what they told us they would lend us up to.
Yeah. In their markets is typically how they like that.
I'm sorry, what's that?
In their markets is typically how they like to run it.
So yeah, where these are at, these are in my market, and it's not like a nationwide thing.
Right.
They're only going to do Maryland, and the one might go Delaware, Pennsylvania for us if we
Right.
pick stuff up there. But yeah, if we shift out of those markets, I would be on the phone
Right.
immediately trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
find somebody else to replace that.
Right.
But yeah, that's like there's different loans. Like there's products if you call a bank, but when you're asking different questions, like once we understood it, again, and I didn't have anybody tell me this, I just stumbled on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it opened up everything to us, dude. And it's funny when you're offering a bank a long-term relationship and you're going to bring in massive to them, like
Hmm.
they're like, okay, this guy's going to bring in north of $20 million. He's going to give us a lot of stuff. You'll be on the phone with VPs. You're not going to be talking to some Joe Smo loan
Right.
officer.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to be right at the top talking to them. And that's really what happened to us.
Yeah.
We were on the phone with a bunch of VPs, man. Some of them were like, unfortunately, this doesn't fit us right now, which we knew would happen. And then we just funneled it down. And when we did, we just, I'm staying where I'm at right now until they told me they're done.
Yeah.
And they just aren't doing anymore. But right now, they're not even, they started bringing in other banks to help fund our stuff.
Man.
So we're going to stay there as long as we can, and just keep sticking with a relationship that's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. Well, I was back to your point about the holding costs eating you up, but there's a book. I'll have to find it, but um, David Richter wrote the book, and it really me and my wife started listening to the audiobook, but we thought we were in our own little bubble, riding this roller coaster of deal to deal over the rehab going over budget, the holding costs eating you alive. I mean, at some point when we were doing high volume flips, we had 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 flips. Our holding costs were $15,000-$20,000 a month just on interest alone. And you're like, well, shit, we have to sell another house to make it through another month. And you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then to your point was we finally got some private money and we're got in the same cycle again. It's like, why don't we just ask them to put the interest on the back end? We've already done a couple of deals. They like us. We've paid back the money a bunch of times. Let's just ask. And a lot of people are either don't know to ask, don't know it's an option, or too scared to ask. So we finally started asking, like, dude, this one's gonna be 6 months. Do you want the interest or do you want to just collect it at the end? Does it really matter to us? Does it matter to you? And they said, yeah, let's just do it at the end. So
Dude, that's awesome, man. There's not a lot of guys set up like that, and there's not a lot of guys that are asking it.
yeah,
But that was a massive transformation for us
right.
that took us our like if I let's say I've got like 400 grand and I'm doing a bunch of deals or whatever, and if I
Mhm.
got 350,000 out and I'm cutting those holding checks, and you're looking at the 50 sitting there, you're like,
It's getting
dang, I don't know if I'm gonna
close.
make it right now. It's gonna
Yeah.
be a little tight.
Yeah. No, it's the same cycle that I would imagine that 90+% of all flippers, even wholesalers really, because they got high marketing expenses, go through that of this cyclical, extremely painful process of, dude, when is the next one? When's the breaking point? Or, which deal is going to be the deal that goes too long or over budget that just kills the whole business? And it's a painful thing to be going through and to have to experience it. And it sucks.
Oh, dude, 100%. And I think that's the thing is like, um, if I were to try to live my lifestyle right now and travel the way that we do, and to pick up right now and to do, say, 40, 50 flips a year,
Mhm.
I'd go crazy. I
Yeah.
would go insane.
Yeah.
I just could, there's just no way. There's no freedom in it.
Right.
I don't care. You can sit, I don't care whose coach you put me in front of. Um, and to this, like, this is why like I'm not in the rooms. I don't care to go to the rooms.
Mhm.
Uh just for this reason. Like a lot of guys you get in these rooms, dude, it's ego, flip volume, door count, and then you hear the guy only owns like 20% of his doors.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just I I'm a less headache guy. I'm not a more headache guy. I want peace of mind and I want to control my world. And if I can do that, I
Yeah.
can make every decision super fast. That's why like I got friends that are syndicating and they're doing really well. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
It never will be. I'm not going down that road.
Right. Yeah, I like your model. When I first got into real estate flipping, I was looking up to the guys that are doing apartments. And then I learned that a lot of them only had a 3 to 5 year hold and then they were selling the asset. I'm like, dude, that's cool and all. You get, a $250,000 check, $500,000 check, whatever it is. But why not figure out a way to hold on to that asset? And then I started meeting people that were doing that, but they weren't doing that in the 250 unit complexes. They were doing it in the 20, 40, 60 unit complexes where it made sense to get out their private lender or the bank or whatever and refinance and keep it in house long term.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that is the model. Why isn't everybody doing this? And everybody's chasing the door count.
Yep, exactly what it is. So the problem is, I think that I think it's almost, I don't know, I hate to say it this way, but I don't know how else to put it, right? It's a coaches that are leading blind to blind, right? So it's a blind
Yeah.
leading the blind. So if somebody else is a heavy believer in the grind, they're going to sell it.
Oh
And
yeah.
this is most motivational books, most seminars. It's what everybody's preaching this. And if you're preaching the grind, like, well, and again, it's not this. This is not. I'm not trying to sound like cocky or anything with this. This is why I don't take advice from a lot of people. Is your business cool? You're spitting off cash. You have no time.
Mhm.
And I had a guy call me who runs a RIA down in I can't say exactly where it is. I gotta say Florida
Yeah.
because it'll pinpoint him.
Right.
We'll just say Florida, and he runs like a real estate meetup down in Florida. Quite a few members. They get a nice turnout,
Mhm.
and he's in a lot of the masterminds and rooms too. And he's on the phone with me, and he's like, "Dude, I feel like I'm missing something." He's like, "Everybody talks living a life of freedom. No one's doing it."
Mhm.
He's like, "You're one of the only guys I know." He's like, "You gotta, can you break this down for me?" And I did. I broke it down for him. I said, I said, a lot of guys that are in the rooms and that are coaching right now, again, nothing against any of the coaches at all, but everything is volume and it's this go grind it out.
Mhm.
And I said to him, I said, next time you get around those guys, uh, ask them if they're really happy with where their business is, and then ask them about the vacations they're going to take this year, ask them about the travels that they're doing that's non-business related,
Mhm.
and then ask them how much they've traveled in the last 6 months. And so he sends me a message like 5 days later,
Mhm.
and he goes, every single person is miserable. They're not happy. They're not they're not traveling and they're complaining that they're not
Yeah.
doing those, right?
Or
So
they're,
I think that's the thing is like in order for this to work, I literally had to let go of a lot of ego.
mhm,
Um, and that's saying, oh, I have to have 100 plus doors. I got to have all this stuff. Dude, I'm cash flowing right now more than most guys with 100 plus doors. My portfolio count right now is 40.
mhm,
I don't have a massive portfolio, but we are making more than most guys north of say 115, 130.
or
We're
more.
netting
Yeah.
more than those guys.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is like I used to look at it completely differently and be like, oh, it's these numbers. And now I'm more aware because I'm an operator.
Mhm,
Uh, it doesn't take what most people think it takes. And just as an example, I polled a lot of people, and I'll ask you this question. I won't go in exacts, but I'll ask the question. If you went to Europe for 6.5 months
mhm.
and you went over and you traveled around, and let's say you didn't stay in five-star resorts, how much do you think it would cost you per month?
Hmm. Staying in hotels only.
Airbnbs or hotels?
Yeah. So your minimum 200 a night, so your 6 grand plus food, 14 to 16,000 bucks easy. And that's not even doing anything fun really. That's food, that's basic travel, that's basic excursions.
Yep.
You're not doing the bougie stuff. I would say a minimum 15,000.
Yeah, and I think so we spent less than that from our entire trip over there. I think I spent, let me do that math. Yeah, no, we
Yeah,
spent less
200
than
bucks and that's kind of steep, but yeah, I'd say
that. Yeah.
15,000. Yeah.
We went over and at first I thought I was like, oh, I'll spend around 60.
Mhm.
I blew through that. I blew through 70. We just don't know how much. I'm not looking at it. I refuse to look at it, but we know we blew through that. Um, Switzerland was stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Dude, I was spending at some point $700-800 a day
Mm.
in Switzerland. I couldn't believe how much money we were spending. But other parts weren't that bad, and then parts of it were more expensive. But the thing is, like, there's guys that would rather. Like, there's nothing against it. I don't really care about the five-star stuff, man.
Mm.
I've been in five-star resorts. I'm just not even a hotel guy anymore.
Right.
I want to be in a nice house where my wife and I can control the morning routine.
Mm.
I can control my breakfast that I want to make that I'm used to. I can control some of it, right? And
Right.
then we'll go eating out for like lunch and dinner.
Right.
Is that part I'm cool with. But yeah, I hate hotels, man.
Hmm.
I'm just not a hotel guy. I'm an Airbnb and travel around like that way. But uh like just going back to time, time is the biggest riddle. Anybody can build a business making money. Anybody can build a business making seven figures. Anybody can build a business you're involved in. Everybody can do that. It is capable to anybody.
Yep.
But what is the thing of what most talk about is they want a life of freedom, but they never build it.
Right.
And it's at the end of the day, it's something to do with somewhere along the line, somebody they saw someone that was doing massive volume. They thought it was the answer. And I did it. I went through the same thing and I got around some people and I realized that is what originally affected me.
Hmm.
And now I am more aligned and okay with not having my foot on the gas 24/7.
Yeah.
Completely at peace with it.
Right. Well, even those guys that do make a ton of money and do end up going on a couple of vacations a year, they can't leave their resort because they're stuck to their phone or their laptop. And it's like, can you really spend time with your kids in the pool or, whatever it is? Like for me and Ashley, our kids are gone now, but I want to go be able to go on a hike and not worry about, what phone call I'm missing or, go to
Yep.
Thailand and be 11 hours off of the US time and not worry about staying up till 1 in the morning so I can make sure I can get to my emails. It's just dumb, like why go on vacation if you can't enjoy it?
Exactly. And it's like, I'm okay. Like my portfolio doesn't take as much now, my existing to like oversee per month.
Hmm.
We're probably sub 4 hours right now on average, between my wife and I. Like
Yeah.
that's it. It's not
W-
taking us much time.
Week or
Uh,
a month?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're in a value add position where I got construction going on, my wife gets involved a little bit, but that's mostly
Hmm.
me that's handling that. And then I shave off some time per day, not every day, maybe 2, 3 days a week
Yeah.
for acquisitions. And right now for me, I'm in my what I call off season.
Hmm.
And anything from like when I arrive in Florida to whenever we leave out to go, if we're in an RV, if we're going West Coast, or if I'm going to Europe, I consider this time to be my off season because I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
moving
Right.
frequently. This is the only time of year I'm in acquisitions. This is it.
Hmm.
I'm not in acquisitions mode the rest of the year. Um, and it's funny, dude. It's like again, there's just a different mindset shift. My cash flow has gone up substantially in the last like 12 to 18 months,
Hmm.
and my net worth has gone up substantially. And even if the shit shifts down, I don't care. I'm not selling for like I'm exiting. I'll exit everything out between a 10 and a 15-year window. That's where we've got to for what we're doing right now and like the strategy of why we're doing it. The next decade to 15 year, that's we're done.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything past that.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about your acquisitions. Are you, when you get in the syndication rooms, it's all about broker relations. But I feel like in the smaller unit counts, it might be some off-market outreaching to find the mom and pop guys. What's your approach for finding your next deal?
So right now, we're mainly building relationships with like brokers who are bringing us stuff prior to market and
Yep.
some other off-market stuff.
Yep.
Um, we've also bought stuff off of like some whole small stuff off of wholesalers.
Yep.
And then we've had relationships for a very long time. And like we had a seller I bought 6 units from, and then the other four took 3 years to get the deal done.
Hmm.
Maybe four, 3 or 4 years from like constant follow up.
Yeah.
And this guy I didn't mind following up with because like dude was cool as shit. Yeah, he's like 80 some years old, had a
Hmm.
Corvette and like uh had a bunch of companies.
Yep.
And he's like one of those really wise uh older guys. And
Yep.
like I just love talking to this guy. It wasn't even like a business thing for us. He actually tried to sell me his company
Yeah.
that service slot machines. He
Oh,
has
really?
yeah, well, he had a contract and we almost bought it. Like I went back and forth on this thing. He had a contract with the government because it's all government controlled
Hmm.
for like almost $30 million was
Jeez
the size
Louise.
of the contract,
Yeah.
and he wanted to sell it for 1 million.
Huh.
And I'm like, we looked at and I like backfill. I'm like looking at all the pieces. I don't know anything about slot
Yeah.
machines.
Well, there's a reason he's
Uh,
wanting to sell it. He's like either it's a headache or he's just done.
he's 88 years old.
Yeah. So he's
Yeah,
done.
so actually the building we bought, uh, the last one, he had a contractor that was going to build it out. It got
Hmm.
kind of burned by the guy, and we had a contract to buy it finished, and we just renegotiated the deal with him. We bought it without him having to wait
Right.
because we were afraid he would pass away
Yeah. Yeah.
before the deal ever got built, and then I'd be arguing with the heirs,
Hmm.
or the heirs, sorry, the heirs if they
Yeah.
wanted to sell it to us. And I'm like, I'm just closing on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just cut a check, man. I didn't even try and raise money for it. I just cut a check to the guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
here,
Just
take
make it
it,
easy.
run. Yep,
Right.
it was. Yeah, but I think just now, like most of the stuff is either coming off of either wholesalers for small stuff.
Hmm.
Some of it's still direct because people know us, so agents still funnel stuff
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
us. And then brokers for some of the bigger stuff are
Yeah.
bringing us stuff because there's a dude. I got one of these guys we connected with. He had a deal fall apart in my market. 10, 12 million bucks, something like that.
Hmm.
Literally fell apart 3 days before closing. And he's like, this isn't the first one we have had happen in the last like 2, 3 months.
Yeah.
He had a couple of them. So he's like, a buyer that will actually perform at this level right now is worth their weight in gold. And a lot of these guys don't want to deal with somebody who's going to jerk them around.
Even if it's more
We're
money.
getting more known now as somebody like, because again, this is us. This is our money. I don't have 50 partners. I
Right.
don't have syndicated funds that need to go get raised.
Hmm.
It's opening up a lot more worlds to us
Yeah.
for broker relationships.
Yeah. That's great, man. So you started 6 years into multifamily. So you're about 12-ish, 12 to 14 years into the multifamily stuff. And it's all been
Not
in Maryland.
even. No,
Really?
not even. So I got really lucky. So here's what happened. I came into the business and I was doing wholesale deals and there was this commercial program I couldn't afford at the time.
Hmm.
And uh, so I got asked to speak on a stage in a group. So I go and speak on a stage, and the two ladies approached me
Mm.
afterwards, like, we'd love to partner with you. One of the ladies in this group was actually a personal coach for Anthony Robbins.
Okay.
And I got a year. I needed a lot of personal growth, just being really honest.
Mm.
And I got a year's worth of personal growth. Now, we disbanded that because the ladies actually had a little bit of a tiff between them. So that got disbanded. And I got a year with multiple times per week,
Mm.
several one-on-one sessions. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's
Right. So
sweet.
I
Yeah.
got a personal self-help coach, which I really needed at that time, big time, dude. And I got that. And then honestly, man, after that, we just built residential.
Mhm.
And I've had a pull for doing these aren't like the biggest of deals, right? So I'm not out there trying to buy 200 units. I'm staying away from 100 units right now.
Mhm.
I can do some of these in some of the markets, but 50-ish doors is probably up to 80. That's really our target, 80-ish, and then, as 8 units range.
Yeah.
It's just easier to put those deals together very quickly. 1 to 5 million, I can do those very quickly.
Yeah.
Like I can close on those with bank debt about with inspections and everything, 60 days on a
Yeah.
max. And that's hard for a lot of guys to pull right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially start getting beyond, you start getting those commercial ranges, even just getting an appraiser on site and a qualified GC to give you your bid is going to take you 45 days
Yeah, I
at
mean
least.
that's what we ran into on one of the last ones we just did. But yeah, I mean it's we started moving the jump after we had our base. I call it a base of assets.
Mhm.
Once the base of assets was established, and we were cash flowing well,
Mhm.
I was cash flowing, dude. I was cash flowing well at like 25 doors, really
Mhm.
well. Like probably the equivalent at that range, someone else's 60,
Yeah.
maybe 70 doors. And again, like I had rates, my rates were low,
Yeah.
like really low. I chunk at a 4%, another chunk were 3.5% that I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
And we just cash flowed really well since like then.
Right.
And a lot of guys didn't have that setup,
Right.
that we have. And it's just, again, once I had the base, I was okay making the jump. Once I had liquidity myself and then extra private money, made the world. And then we got lines of credit available. Like we have bank lines of credit for quite a bit of money.
Mhm.
That's yeah, just sitting there right now that I'm paying no
Yeah.
holding costs on that are just
Right. Right.
we're just looking, and
Right.
when we find something, we find something. But uh you were asking earlier about like our like probably that end plan.
Yeah.
So this decade is that we're building for that exit. We want a lot of guys are. I'm not in an ego driven mode. I don't need if I go make another 200 grand right now, dude. I'm not going to do anything different. I'm already living the life that I wanted to live. I'm literally living my dream life, and I'm able to do everything I've ever wanted to do. And we're traveling everywhere that we want to go.
Mhm.
And like, you know this, but if anybody hears this, they didn't know this. But we were in Europe for 6.5 months with my two Jack Russells, and we took them to their where Jack Russells originated out of Scotland and another part of the UK where they came from as well.
Mhm.
I've been able to do in this past year, like this has been like my epic dream trip, and we're going back next year. We're going to go back to Europe for probably 5-ish months next year. I'm
Yeah.
not going as long. This was a really long trip over there. But my biggest thing right now is when I look at if we buy 1 to 2 larger deals a year, this is it. Okay.
Mhm.
And if I do 1 to 2, and if I sprinkle in some smaller stuff, great. But if I just do 1 to 2 larger deals a year, it is larger can be called north of a million.
Yeah.
The $1 to $5 million range depends on how you look at it. If we exit from a decade to 15 years, and you look at an amortization calculator on this, my exit on just right now, without putting my foot on the gas and being in acquisition mode and like needing 5 to 8 employees to do this,
Mhm.
we want to be able to donate uh 8 figures.
Yeah.
That is what my wife and I want. I'm not, this is the thing. We don't have kids, and leaving a legacy to me is far beyond giving the money to one single person.
Right, right.
And we want to be able to build this up to be able to donate it. And without needing all the shit that most people would be like, I need a marketing budget.
Mm,
I need all this other crap. I don't need any of it. Right. So from right now, from where we're sitting, I can do one deal a year, even if it's even that. I don't even think I really need that, but one, two on a max. I can right now, without changing anything, in 10 to 15 year, I'll start exiting from 50. I'm about to turn 40. So from 50 to 55, we're going to exit and just stay liquid.
yeah,
We'll keep it mostly. We're going to turn it into just, we'll probably lend some of it out, and then just stay cash, man.
yeah,
I don't need, and that's the thing is like, I am very well aware of what the lifestyle costs truly are.
yeah.
I know right now, like, I'm not about to go run to Bora Bora. I don't really care. I'm not running to Fiji.
Hmm.
I'm not running any of the other beach stuff. Like, I mean, I spent weeks in Hawaii. Um, I did a month in the Riviera, the French Riviera, all around that this past year, and it was awesome.
Hmm.
But I just don't really care to go to probably some of the places that a lot of people like see those and like have that pool.
Right.
Um, so knowing what I know the cost to be, I man, like it doesn't take again like to travel. It doesn't take what most people think it takes.
Right.
Uh, it just doesn't. But to the next level for us, we just want to be able to donate it in our later years. That's
Yeah.
what my wife and I both want.
No, that's sweet. I mean, yeah, to your point, I mean, if there's no heirs to take it, and especially if you're don't, especially if you're handing down multiple 7 or 8 figures, it's like, what is that one person going to do all of that with all of that in one lump sum?
That's exactly.
Not,
And this is
not.
dude, if you're in the rooms, have you had that conversation? Have you asked anyone what they're doing with their wealth that has, let's say, mid eight figures and up?
I mean, most people talk about lasting long-term legacy, which is hard for me to wrap my mind around because almost everybody is just going to destroy it in the first 3 years. It
Yep.
just seems crazy.
You can't, like, just imagine a kid, uh, 20, 30 years old, maybe 40, depending on how young you had kids, if you have
Mm.
kids, right? You just think about one person inheriting that kind of money, seven figures, they're going to go to,
Oh,
they're going to
six
take some of
months
those
gone.
stupid trips. They're going to do some
Yep.
dumb stuff, right?
Yeah.
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 There's
I mean,
the best advice I got was from a friend of mine who's an attorney, and the guy had his numbers ran every single which way, and he's like, at right now without him buying anything else or doing anything else, dude's worth like $70 million,
it's,
and he's got two kids, and they're struggling to leave them $20 million. It's a lot of money. They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
we just don't. So but they are, and then they're setting up funds to for upon their passing, the
Mm.
funds get transferred in.
Yep.
The daughter becomes like the person who oversees the fund, and she gets paid $300,000 a year as a salary
Mm.
to donate those out with set parameters per year, and it'll last generations,
Yeah.
right? Or decades upon decades, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not just going to cut one big check to
Right.
like one nonprofit. They give it away. It goes to the hospital, local hospitals. It's going to cancer patients. They're paying for college for underprivileged children.
Yeah.
It's really is an amazing, beautiful thing. But that is a legacy, and I think what legacy gets hard for a lot of people when they really talk about this level, the younger ones, like the low seven figure, six-figure range, where a lot of people are at, it's, what most of us are talking about, it's just giving it to the kids. And it's just never, you can't just, it's really hard if you come from
Hmm.
a blue collar background like I did. It's really hard to wrap your head around giving somebody that much freaking money.
Yeah. It's just,
You know, you work your whole dang life, or build a business like we did, and the blood, sweat, and tears and everything else, and the frustrations that we all dealt with. I just can't even wrap my head
yeah.
around giving somebody that much money.
Right.
I just
And
can't.
I mean, beyond, like I said, 1 to 3 years, once they've spent it all and they didn't learn how to accumulate or build it, they're worse off because now they're like, well, I had this lifestyle for X amount of years. And my guess is that once they've gone blown through it, they go through massive amounts of depression and abuse
Yep.
because they don't know how to get it back and get that lifestyle back. I think it's more of a detriment. I mean, there's got to be less than 3% of people in the world that can take that amount of money right out the gate and do something beneficial with it.
Yeah. It's far and few between, right? It's like, and just the idea of saying, okay, there's whatever, $50 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the number ends up being, at my end of my lifetime or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to donate out, or more. But, it's just a mind blowing thing to think about the waste. And we're gonna leave some money to some friends' kids. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
already said that. We're gonna give some of our friends' kids money to help them. But beyond that, man, I'm not nieces, nephews. I mean, they're 20-ish now, all of them,
Yeah.
like my nieces and nephews. Just handing them money, what is that gonna do?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's
I
like
mean,
it's, I always look at it this way. If we go out to dinner and I grab the dinner bill, right? They might say thank you,
mhm.
but are they really thankful?
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, Uncle Rob grabbed the check and paid whatever a $400 or $500 dinner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right? But is that really a thank you for that? And it's I don't know. Like I because I've been in that position where I've had other people, and I realized I almost said thank you. It's like, am I actually grateful?
Mhm.
Right? And it's weird. Like I just don't want to be in that position, giving somebody that much money and
Right.
then finding out, again, I'm not around anyway, but
Right. You
just
wouldn't
seeing
find
it
out.
gone like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's got to be like triggers with the trust beyond passing. Like, all right, graduation, here's $8,000. Get you a car and an apartment. You
yep,
get your first salary because you finally finished college. Cool. Here's some money to help pay off some of your debt. You go for your first house. Here's 25,000. It seems like there should be triggers to make it more beneficial for the heir versus the big.
yep. 100. That's why, like, I invest in experiences for like my family, and like we've done trips to Hawaii, we've done trips to Disney,
Mhm.
and in an RV. What was awesome, and I'm excited for you guys to experience this. I grew up, my younger childhood vacations were across the country. By the time I turned 18, I had been every state in the U.S. but one,
Oh,
and the only
shit.
state I hadn't been to was Hawaii.
Yeah.
And my dad, because I my it was my dad and my mom got divorced when I was very very young,
Mhm.
and just to have my dad come out to like Glacier National Park with us when we were out there for a while, Rocky Mountain National Park, other parts of Colorado,
Mhm.
and like Arches National Park. He came out around there as well, and some other areas that he's come out to. And
Yeah.
it's just, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. And like even my wife's parents, they visit us all over, out in Colorado and some other areas. And then, in the last 5 years, we've done trips to Hawaii, trips with them, and then we've also done had them down to Disney.
Yeah.
It's
That's the
been
goal,
awesome.
man. That's sweet.
Yeah, it's just been it's been everything that I've ever wanted and then so much more. Real estate is the one thing that is the blessing of this business is built right without the guru bullshit, right? But if just built right and if you protected time right in a way that if you built it and offloaded certain tasks, dude, you can run anything anywhere. Like there's limitations that most guys are put in is because they're still within that, either they're stuck in the wholesaling or they're stuck in the flips and stuff like that,
Yeah.
um and they're just not systematized. And this is the thing, I can count on one hand how many guys that actually have one of those companies that really are free. Like
Hmm.
that's it. I can count on one hand, and I know tons of people do that. The rest of them, they're freaking coaches.
Yeah.
And and this is why like my wife and I started talking about this. I've actually I don't do podcast interviews, man. Like I've been offered some, and I'm not a person that really, I don't have anything to sell.
Right.
I without having anything to sell, and I'm at a point right now where it's like I'd rather be not known than known,
Yeah.
right? So like I just again like I have no ego. Like I don't and I like I think there's a lot of things you get in these rooms. It's like people think it's like their way is the only way, and
Yeah.
they try and sell it hard. I just think that what I built worked for me. Like that's
Right.
it. And cool, you built it a different way, then it worked for you.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way that I consider if I'm going to listen to somebody is my number one question I ask somebody is I ask this, and this is truthful. I ask them,
Mhm.
how much have you traveled and where did you go over the last 6 months?
Mhm.
And if you tell me you took a 1 week vacation in 6 months, you're married to it and that's
Yeah.
your passion, or you don't have financial freedom, or even if you do, you don't have time freedom.
Right.
I'm not about to sit there and get wrapped up in the same shit. You're going to give me the same advice that got you there.
Yeah.
I'm not going down that road.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
don't care. I'm just more protective of it than probably some other people are.
Yep.
Um, and just for a lot of the reasons that we're talking about, the traveling stuff, and I want to enjoy the areas and be there. And this is why I've been really talking. The only reason I'm still on social media, dude, is my dad, and we have family, and that's how they get updates.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sending all these pictures, and if it wasn't for this right now, I would be off today.
Yeah.
I just don't care anymore. It just doesn't mean anything to me to be like, I closed this deal, I did this. I, I just don't care. I don't need to boost me up, ego.
Right.
I, yeah. And it's just weird, man. You spend your first part of your life building something and then aspiring for one thing and then realizing it wasn't what you wanted to begin with. That was what I built.
Yeah.
And then I figured out the opposite side. I'm like, okay, let me go try and figure this out over here. And it's worked phenomenal for us.
Yeah. Well,
It's
that's
worked
great.
amazing.
Like you said, most people will go, years, 10 years, maybe even their whole career life to try to attain something. If they make it, they're like, well, shit.
And it's time. Time's the answer. Money's not.
Yeah.
Dude, I know people making so much money that have no time.
Yeah. And you don't
And
even need a lot of money to have time freedom. It's just
nope.
got to be just beyond your burn.
Yep. Dude, I know guys making north of 700 a year, that literally verbatim told me they were like, I would sacrifice and get down to 250
Hmm.
if it meant I was barely working much anymore.
Yeah.
It just doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
right? So if it's just a number, when you think about, and this is my problem, earned income, you're taxed, right?
Yep.
And if you're making heavy earned income, you're 40, 50%. If
Yeah.
you're making, higher,
Yep.
right? If you're making on the upper scale, you're being taxed 40 to 50% across the board. So
Yep.
if I'm going to pay 50% in taxes,
Hmm.
if I'm making, say, 800 a year, I'm down to 400. So if your portfolio side is not paying taxes or very little taxes,
Yep.
it just makes so much more mathematical sense. It's like, dude, I'm making the same amount as you and you're working like 60 hours a
Yeah.
week. Come on, man. I'm not. That's why, again, it's like it's an ego driven, those rooms, most of them, they're pushing volume. They're talking about their problems because their business is built for that. And again, I
Right.
have nothing against it, but it's a time suck. It's not freedom. It's a business. And I hate to say it, this is my biggest problem with the investing side. If you're not on the portfolio side and you're a volume wholesaler, you're a volume flipper, that
Mhm.
business is not sellable.
Yeah.
You got a
Right.
cash machine.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So if you didn't build anything with it,
Yep.
what's the point?
Right. And that there's one problem in the machine, you're done. And
Bingo.
as little as a couple weeks or a couple months, it's just certainly not something I want to be a part of at all.
Yeah. And dude, I've been there. Like it sounds like you have too. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
you don't get here without a little bit of blood and scars, right? And
Yep.
we all have it. It's just the thing is like I just started asking myself different questions and I forced myself to take longer trips.
Right.
And from that, it gave me the proper feedback. It gave me everything that I needed with no coaching. It was my business, live feedback that I could get
Hmm.
without needing to pay somebody. I found all of my holes and it was great. I invested in travel. I
Yeah.
didn't invest in sitting in a room with a bunch of people telling me what to do and then that not working,
Right.
but this worked phenomenally for us. And we still make tweaks, dude. Like we're still making tweaks to this day, for stuff just to like try and minimize, headaches and stuff. And like I told you earlier, like I'm a headache free guy. I had a thing last night. Our manager sent my wife a text with
Hmm.
a situation and I just said, remove the tenant. I didn't
Yeah.
even care. Just go. I told him follow the eviction. I just don't care.
Right.
I'd rather take the loss and then just we'll move somebody else in. I don't have headaches. He doesn't have headaches. It makes them happier.
Right.
easier run business versus dealing with stupid crap.
Yeah. No, man, that's the way I am. Yeah.
Yep.
Even with private lenders, if they become too burdensome to even bother with, or if there's too many delays and you're like, well, shit, are we even going to close? It's like, cool. I mean, I could use the private money every once in a while, but not the headache. So I'll call you in the worst case scenario, but you won't be getting my call anymore.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's like I'm I think it's just from traveling. I had a thing, my everything shifted in my perspective. I was running these ultra marathons like um 70 to 100 plus miles.
Wow.
And I was pushing like my own physical limits, which really turned into massive mental limits.
Mm-hmm.
And from like doing all these, and I would run like I would go out for like 40 plus mile runs by myself through the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just trying to figure out like my body and like what I was capable of. And I was doing a lot of training and stuff.
Yeah.
And it changed my definition of what's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Business is really not hard. And even the problems really are just quick, just make the decision, quick decision. You take the information, you make the best thing, you move on.
Right.
You're not physically anguished. You're not, body's not breaking down. You're not, you know, struggling inside of your head at that level.
Yeah.
And so now for me, it's like, I have no problem. I could be, um, out at Disney, and if I get a couple things that hit me, I just don't even care. Like people are
Right.
like, "Oh, how do you do that?" Like you're traveling, and dude, like it's just, none of that stuff bothers me
Right.
at all. Right? It's
Almost
just,
all problems can wait or just be not a
yeah,
problem. Yeah.
that's all it is, man.
Right. Man,
So
that's
what do
awesome.
you are you mainly doing flips now, or what are you doing?
Mostly land now. So we just buy land and create notes.
Oh,
So
that's more passive. That's far more passive than my
yeah,
stuff.
so we're buying everything at like 50% of market value.
Yeah,
And typically we'll have the buyer's down payment cover the underlying balance. So then we have a free and clear note. And these notes typically are shorter, 3 to 5 years, but most of my notes are 500, 600, 1,100 bucks a month. It's just so
dude, that's sweet.
yeah. Yeah, we're still doing flips just because they come across my desk and I got a little bit more time freedom. But my biggest push right now is we just bought this software company, and that's my end all be all right there. So
Oh, that's badass, dude.
yeah.
Is it real estate related or not real estate related?
Yeah, it's a real estate CRM. So
Do
right
I
now
know it?
probably not. So I bought it from a guru, surprisingly. And so he was pitching it to his students as like a training thing and um, collaboration and doing partnerships and stuff. So he didn't market it to the public. So as of like a couple months ago, and now I have a forward-facing website and all that stuff. But and I'm
Cool.
revamping. I got a whole roadmap of what I want to do, but it's just crazy. So I'll just for numbers sake, I only have about 112 users right now, so I'm making $10,000 a month doing a whole lot of nothing. But if I can get up to 5,000 users at 200 bucks a month, it's just like I don't ever have to work again.
Dude,
It's
that is awesome.
yeah.
That's super cool.
So that's my push, passive. The longer I can spend on these vacations, the better.
That's awesome.
So
That's
yeah,
cool. Hey, man, at least you're not doing syndications because I swear I feel like this is getting pushed far too hard right now.
yeah,
And there's no honesty
right,
with these guys because most of these syndications, because I've got some friends that invest just in syndications as
yeah,
part of their main strategy.
right,
They got like 10 to 20% are actually performing right now.
yeah. No,
That's it.
well,
Like they're mostly 80 to 90% non-performing.
right. Yeah, nobody expected the bridge loans to be called right when the
Nope.
interest rates went up and nobody had a game plan for an exit or they bought at 4% and they can't even think about refining. And yeah, that was when Kahuna and Investor Fuel split ways. And hearing all the things I heard in the cash flow group, I was like, dude, I'm not into the syndication thing at all. I don't want it. And there was a couple in there that do what you do is buying the smaller multi and keeping it in-house 100%. I was like, that's the way I want to go in multifamily.
It's just easier. I don't
Yeah,
have any, like the headaches aren't there. The decisions
right.
are mine. It's, it's everything is easier.
Yeah.
As long as you bought right, you did your DD right, you underwrote it right, and that's not hard to do.
Right.
I don't need to go raise the money.
Yeah.
And I think like it's funny, like I keep seeing these guys like, how do you go raise money? I'm like, you don't. You don't raise money. You
Mm,
attract money. There's
yeah.
a big difference. I don't need
Yeah.
to call my uncle and be like, hey, can I borrow $1 million?
Yeah. 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 That was the
I don't
other
have to go
things
through that.
is even the big guys that have, a portfolio of lenders of let's say 150 lenders, they would still struggle to raise 3 million bucks for the down payment. And I'm just like, one, I don't have that many contacts or private money, so I would struggle out the gate. But they would get down to the wire for raising 3 million bucks. And there was a couple of stories where they couldn't raise the money, they lost a deal, and they had $250,000 in due diligence out. It's like,
Holy shit.
yeah, like hard earnest money, all these expensive appraisals and GC fees, and just like, nah, I don't think so.
Oh man. I gotta add something. Give me a second. I gotta add something to that. This is the riddle. The guys every person that we have met, okay, and even from the investor few guys, everybody was like, there's a lot of people were like, oh, how long are you guys out here for? Okay, now this is just not them. This is really just everybody nearly we
Mhm.
met. At first, we didn't even want to share it
Yeah,
because we were afraid of being targeted.
right.
You're overseas, you don't know who you're talking to. It's not like it's a real somebody you know back in the States, right? So we didn't want to put a target on our back. So at first we're like, oh, we're here in Ireland for like, I don't remember, 37 or 40 days or something when we were in
Mhm.
Ireland. And then when we went to Scotland, we're like, oh, we're here for this. And then I started being really honest. And especially in like France, uh, down in the French Riviera, we were really honest with most of
Mhm.
the people we met there.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, you're here for how long? How long are you here for? And then again, when we got to the investor fuel group, it was the same thing. How you're here for how long? Because most people are like, oh, I came in for 2, 3 weeks, which again, fantastic. That's an awesome trip.
Yep.
But everybody's like, how the fuck are you here for 6.5 months
Yeah.
with your dogs?
Yeah.
And it just, I think everybody gets to a point where it's like you get tired of building the same way that everybody else is building
Yep.
and making it look like the same thing and listening to the guys that are on the stages. And it's just, there's a lot of truth and honesty that a lot of people aren't really willing to face. And the reality is, just because somebody bought a Lambo doesn't mean you need to get a Lambo,
Yep.
right? And if that means that your business, you got to shift and make some changes, you got to be okay with you creating the lifestyle, the actual lifestyle, not the cars, not the dumb shit, but in actually going and traveling and doing the things that are fulfilling for you, your wife, your kids, whatever it might be. They don't give a crap what you drive.
All right.
That matters.
No.
They ain't gonna remember any of that crap anyway.
No.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, that's the cool part is like with this business, somebody wants to sit there and grind their life away, they can do it. Somebody
Right.
wants to go like you, want to go up to Alaska. Dude, you figured it out creating notes through land, right? I mean, and that's awesome. I think that's super smart. If it's worked, dude, keep doing it.
Mhm.
You don't have to set the world on fire doing it, even if it's a no. I mean, I don't know what the cash flow is per note, but you probably don't need to do it like crazy because that's
Well, I mean,
that's that's probably a little bit more passive, right?
oh yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, once the notes you created, I don't do anything versus like a single family rental. You're like, yay, here's my 200 bucks gross. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Sweet.
It's never $200, dude.
Yeah,
It's
I
never.
know.
Everyone, this is why I love these guys that are like, oh, I'm making $400 a month. I'm
Yeah,
like, you're
no,
full
you're
of
not.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have like even a deadbolt gets stuck. There goes a high percentage of your monthly income off of replacing one knob. So yeah, the land notes makes, we don't get the long-term appreciation and depreciation, all that jazz, but dude, these notes are making five, six. We have one note, 1,200 bucks a month just for 3 years. Like that's that's six rental houses. And I'm $30,000 into that one.
Not only that, but with that type of businesses, I'm thinking about it more. That's actually easy to structure to systematize. You can take virtual assistants and you could set up probably maybe 2 to 4.
I got
Right,
four running
probably
the whole
something like
thing.
that. And you're probably rolling virtual assistants. Easy to find those leads,
Yep.
right? That's probably there's not you don't have a lot as much competition as every other
Right.
Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to buy a fucking townhouse.
Well, I mean, that's my model. I have four VAs that run everything. I've got an acquisition, disposition, and two cold callers. Once the
Yeah,
cold
yeah,
callers
we're right
gets
there.
it, right, yeah. And so I got acquisitions who locks it in, dispositions, he writes the contract, acquisition presents it, and then once we get it under contract, I bring it to title and then I take over. But it's about the easiest business you can run if you get it right.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, listen, how much competition is there for what you're talking about, right? You're probably not dealing with that much. Maybe you're dealing a little bit, but probably not a lot, right?
Depending on what area. So we're in Utah, Arizona, and Alaska. My Arizona stuff's pretty a lot of competition. Utah is a smidge, but there's no competition in Alaska.
Dude, that right there. So that's the thing is like and I think that's the biggest problem is, you know, you've been doing this for a while too. There's such a heavy turnover of people
Mhm.
that come in this business.
Right.
And if it's that big of a heavy turnover, A, they were lied to a little
Yep.
bit, probably
Oh
just
yeah,
a
for
little.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
B, it wasn't like you lacked the work in some of these markets. Arizona is very hard. Like that's
Yep.
depending on where you're at, that can be a very rather hard market to be in. But like I, I just if you can figure that out with that with no competition, where, dude, I made an offer on oh man, how many townhouses was this? This was all in a row too.
Mhm.
24 and another 30 something. There's like two packages
Yeah.
and like really close to each other. And I made an offer thinking I'm gonna win.
Mhm.
Turned out I was top 70 percentile. So out of the 10,
Yeah.
I'm like 7. And then there were two people a little bit above me, and then there's an idiot.
Yeah. This
Some guy goes in, and I'm like, and it's just again thinking,
they're just
we're
hiding
thinking this is a
cash is at that
big
point.
purchase. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I think the price was like about 5 million or something.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, there shouldn't be a lot of competition.
Yeah.
There's still 10 fucking people.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're not dealing with that much competition and you're still able to create cash flow, even if I were running rough, like what's the average length of your note? You going 5 years,
Yeah, 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, right there's the math. Think about it. Like, okay, cool. If I turn out 10, 20 notes a year, maybe
Mhm.
something like that,
Yeah.
even 30 would be fantastic. But
Yeah.
10 to 20,
Right.
dude, that's a great year.
Yeah.
You got 3 to 5 years of longevity
Yep.
on that. You got 30 rolling after so much time, 30, 40, maybe 50.
Yeah. So right.
Unless you're
So
setting the world on fire, then you probably got a shitload more, maybe 100.
no, no, we're not doing that well.
Yeah, I
No.
mean, with that structure, yeah, that's phenomenal. You're stepping in. It's just time. That's the whole thing. Is like, if you've got the ability to afford to be patient,
Mhm.
then I don't need to do the same thing as everybody else,
Right.
right? And I think this is. I'm going to share this with you because I think this is like I don't like talking about people that have like asked me for advice, but this one I kind of think I might share a little bit because I'm not name dropping people. Um, this guy called me, and this has actually happened this year. He's on the East Coast, not saying where, and he used to build houses,
Mhm.
and he was making 7 figures a year, and they were doing very well. His
Yep.
house is free and clear. His partner's house is free and clear. They had no debt. So a guy comes along, and the business, and sold him on setting up a wholesaling company. The guy didn't have one because the guy goes, "Why are you doing this like this? You could go set up a wholesaling business and magically be systematized and making all this money."
Mhm.
The guy sold him on it. Well, the guy he got sold this thing, and he sets it up. The guy was burning $40,000 a month.
Mhm.
He was burning it,
And that's
and
low.
I mean just burning, not
Yeah.
marketing costs. After all of his expenses, he was burning 40 grand. So guy had money. He wasn't in
Mhm.
a normal situation of like, I need capital at
Right.
all. Plenty of money. A long time. So he called me, asked me for some help. And I, said, we talked about it. But this guy got sold setting up a wholesaling company because he got told that this was the way and he was burning $40,000 a month. And at the end of the call, we talked about setting up a portfolio because again, the guy's got money,
Mhm.
setting up a portfolio company, going back and doing, if he needs to, a few builds here or there. Like that's it. Again, has the systems and everything else to do them and was
Yep.
already making 7 figures a year,
Right.
and he completely pivoted, right? And I think that's the thing is like you get around somebody else who says this is the way,
Yep.
and you got to go grind and do all this stuff.
Mhm.
That's what he did. And he was miserable
Yeah.
doing it. It wasn't working out, even though there was quite a bit of revenue. There was a lot of revenue there, but it wasn't really making money.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So the biggest takeaway that he had, he's like, and again, I'm not coaching, I'm not coaching anybody, but I've helped some guys that have called me. His biggest takeaway, he said, dude, I got more value to this call than his roughly $100,000+ a year this guy spending on freaking mastermind.
Right.
He's like, I have asked this question to so many people, and he's like, I've gotten so many answers. He said, you're the first person that literally said, broke it down for me. Now I
Mhm.
understand it better. And he took the information, and right now he's in a completely different situation right now, and he's building himself a much better business than what he had.
Yeah. I mean, the high volume wholesaling companies, dude, you can never stop. There's no breathing room.
Nope. And they're not making money
No.
because probably the same people that I have met now. They're not really making that much money, or they're struggling.
Right. And it goes back to that story I told you earlier. I mean, it's week 2, week 3 before they even break even. It's just like one bad month and it's game over, or one market shift, or if you're selling to hedge funds, if that hedge fund breaks out of your market, it's game over. It's done. It's just
And
like,
that's already happened. Those guys
yeah,
are already hurt because of that. That's
yeah,
what's led to some of these guys because they were selling to hedge funds and they stopped buying.
yep. Or they
That was
weren't.
one minute piece, man. But yeah, like it was definitely interesting. This is why, like, I have found that if I needed advice, I am more apt to pick up a phone than want to go sit for 3 to 4 days. And I have just let my business provide the feedback that I've needed.
Mhm.
And we've, again, proper feedback can be done in 1,000 different ways, but just getting the proper feedback and then figuring out, am I dealing with growth pain? What is it? And then having people in my life that I can just call
Right.
and that'll give me the advice that I need. And that's it. Like, and I've got slews of people right now
Yeah.
that I can, across multiple fields, if I run into any type of problem, um, that are in my life. And that's why I don't care to go to a lot of the same things that everyone else does. Now, again, I'm not knocking it. I get it. It's cool. Great being around those people. Maybe
Mhm.
it helps you think differently. But from a guy that's been very free and doing everything he's ever dreamed, uh, most of that shit I just think is fake as shit.
Yeah.
I just think it's this just fake
Yeah.
crap. I
Yeah.
think you get it. You get around it enough, you're paying all this money, and you're like, first of all, you start going, where's my return on investment?
Hmm.
Like, yeah, some of it you get, and then some of it, it takes time to
Right.
get like that. But again, if I'm just an operator and I'm growing, and if you've got it all around you already and you're not doing it, then it's a personal issue. But if you're doing it and you've built out freedom and then you've figured out the timepiece, and the timepiece really is not hard, right? Timepiece is easy. Eliminate bad contractors, eliminate the cheap guys, find guys you don't babysit. And then once you find guys that your contractors you're not babysit, if you're in that space, then it makes your world easier.
Right.
If you're got a portfolio, find great managers and then build the right systems to manage that person. And in your space, it's like you don't have to do any of that, right?
No,
Like
no.
like we
Servicing
do.
companies are
I still
cheap.
have to deal with that crap. You don't have
Yeah.
to deal with that, which is awesome.
No, servicing the notes is about as easy as it gets. It's about 10 minutes of entry and game over.
Yep. And dude, I don't have that right now. Uh, I have months where I don't talk to my managers.
Hmm.
Normally, it's rare we touch base with them once a month at least, and
Yep.
then depending on what's going on, and then we go through everything, and then we start breaking it down. We look at anything or any higher cost exposures. Do we have higher turnover? My vacancy rate higher? Is there
Yep.
anything going on? And then again, because I mean, I'm an operator and I just look at that and then we just make quick decisions. That's
Right.
it. I don't sit there and wallow in crap, man,
Yeah.
at all. And I just don't find I think it's funny. Like we spent a year and a half renovating this one dealing with all this crap. What are you renovating? It was just from start to finish in this deal.
Yeah.
And like that is the type of deal that would change most people's life.
Right.
Where I'm all in at, that opened up, man, that building, if I sold that right now, I could probably get like eight-ish, maybe 840 right now, 850 if I sold it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I package it up between the two, I get over 2 million between
Yeah.
the two, between those 10 units if we sold them. And I think what's funny is like I'm not even in at um I'm not even in at $1 million on those right now. I'm actually at like maybe eight-ish right now, something like that off the
Yeah.
top of my head. I'm like at 800 or something like that. And it's the cash flow on it is just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's one like we opened up lines of credit off of them that's sitting there that we can use however we want to. And the cash flow is just, dude, it's amazing.
Right.
It's
And then
amazing.
you risk all there's too many tax implications for selling them. Then you got to worry about a 1031 versus if you can just refi if you need the money and pull it out tax free or pull lines against it. Why sell it? There just doesn't seem to be many reasons that actually
Yep.
justify selling it.
I don't mind looking at return on equity. Like it's something we have been looking at, which is why I 1031 out of it.
Yeah.
I had one property we sold and we 1031 the cash into this, but it was made available to me a week later.
Yeah.
So we had the money sitting there a week later that we could tap if I wanted to pull it.
Right.
We just didn't want the exposure in that asset. It was older, and we were totally comfortable rolling it into something else. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's when when I'm looking at wealth and I'm looking at longevity and like what our end goal is, if I just go out a decade and just start looking at amortization calculator, everything that we break down, it's very simple, but it is not passive.
Yeah.
It is not. There is still work, but it's just not a lot of work. Like I just don't like it's really hard for me to call that work. Like 4 to 6 hours a month on a top end
Mm-hmm.
is not work. But
No.
we normally average like 2 to 2.5.
Yeah.
I've had months where it's like 4 or 5, but it's not many.
Right.
That's there
It's a sweet
for
deal.
what it is. It's just it's not a lot of work, but it was work up front. It's
Right.
just the longevity of it. And the other thing is like we started having our managers pre-lease turnover units um, to minimize the downtime.
Yeah.
That helped a lot, because your down goes to 2 weeks at a max
Right.
versus dealing with the rest of the crap. So we try to pre-lease where possible, if we can. If we can't, then we just
Yeah.
deal with it.
I mean, one vacant month kills cash flow for that unit for the whole year. It's
Yep. Yeah. And like right now, like, I mean, I don't deal with a lot of problems, man, but Section 8, one building, one area, we rent those units and nobody can do anything about it. We
mm-hmm.
can't do anything. We take 90 days to get paid. So if that tenant goes, yeah, I know it's horrible. Tenant moves in,
Mm-hmm.
90-day payout. If I
Jeez
get it in
Louise.
60 days, it is a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. People
Yeah,
are
that sucks a
praising.
bit. That
Yeah.
that that sucks. I'm covering like 3 months worth of crap. But I mean, that's the thing is like that's a headache, but it's not really
That's a
that
manageable
bad.
headache. Yeah. You know that one's coming. It's the ones that you don't know are coming that really tear at you.
Yep. Yeah, and I just don't have a lot of them. Like that's the blessing is like we do mostly heavy ups on most of our buildings that we own. So
Yep.
most of our stuff gets mostly renovated and turned.
Yep.
And I just don't do lipstick and a pig.
Right.
We try and stay away from those wherever possible.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know a lot of guys doing those lipsticks on rentals and they just deal with nightmares all day, every day. It's just like, why not do it right out the gate so you don't have to deal with it? And they're like, well, money, money. I'm like, talk about money. What about the headache you're dealing with now for the next 36 months?
Yep.
That just
I think
seems
the thing is like the other part of having a portfolio right now, not again, we're not getting in politics here. I know because I hate this crap right now. But if you look at the potential with what's coming down the pipeline,
mhm.
I am more apt. We are attempting to max everything.
Yeah.
If litigation comes down and somehow it passes for unit counts or they're maxing rent increases. Somehow that gets passed. We
Mhm.
are trying to get in front of this as much as humanly possible.
Right.
And there's a lot of guys that are not. And if you're not in, say, 6 to 12 months, I don't know when if whatever gets passed will
Right.
pass. Um, I'm just not, dude. We're trying to like, because if we had to jump 300-400 bucks in one of our units, it's just not even possible.
Yeah.
We can't even do it anymore. So we've been really pushing, and even adding like one of my units, we're adding half baths
Yeah.
in them. There's been a massive push to try and get the ones done we could get done, and there's not many more left I can do until tenants move out right
Yeah.
now without pushing people out.
Well, that's even more reason to get back in or get in the notes because
Yep.
how are they gonna? They can't control that.
Yeah, you're well protected. My side is less well protected, dude.
Yeah.
We just again like I'm a no-headed guy, and I think at some point we'll probably move down that road. But yeah, like if you've created notes, it's worked really well for you. There's a couple guys that are in our network that have actually done extremely well with notes.
Mhm.
But I I just stick. I have had some six-figure lessons,
Yeah.
and it wasn't in real estate. So I am not, I am less apt to pull anything away from real estate anymore. I just won't even do it. I'll sit on cash, dude. I don't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
care about it. Oh, you're sitting on cash. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sitting on cash. I don't even
Right.
care.
It
If
feels
it's different
comfortable.
bank where
Yeah.
I can sit there on a line and just I have access to it.
Yeah.
I don't need to, deal with the losing six figures again.
Right.
I'm not doing that again.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, man.
Awesome. Hey, dude, it was good to connect.
Cool. Yeah, we'll catch you.
Awesome. See you.
See ya.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's content. I want to thank you all for listening in. And as the great Les Brown stated, if you are not pursuing your dreams, you are literally committing spiritual suicide. We'll catch you on the flip side.